Welcome to the Witchy Work Wishes podcast, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. Welcome to Witchy Work Wishes. I'm your host, Charlene, and today you are joining me for episode number 109, Night of Hecate. I have a special guest joining me today too, one you know and love just as much as I do. Annika is back with us to walk all of us through who Hecate is, why she is such an important figure in witchcraft, and some ways we can work with her, including the night of November 16th. But first, some things I did over the weekend in my own personal craft and practice. I had more nudges, more little breadcrumbs, more tiny validations and synchronicities. So I was traveling the weekend before and remember me saying how important the number one was for me and, the image I have of me and my boys with it. That, of course, translates to the power of three. There are three of us. So, Connor and I checked in to the hotel before Taylor got there and, headed up to the room. As we walked up to the door, we both saw it. Room number 1110. Love, how awesome, a little nudge. Now, I've seen some little things on my clock as well. Actually, this time it was 3:33 in the morning. But, numbers are coming up. The breadcrumbs are there. And really for this whole month with Witchy Work Wishes too, I've gotten lots of little validations. So I look ahead to see what topics are of interest to me and, budget out at least a little bit what I want to record on. So the last week of October, I looked ahead to November and I knew I wanted to do something with being thankful. And you know what? The last episode in November is 111. Again, perfect. I didn't plan it, but when I added it to the website so you guys could look ahead and see what's coming up, well, there it fell. I knew I also wanted to do an episode about key magic since Mom talked about her special key last month, and I too feel a big draw to keys. So I, budgeted that episode. And then I knew I wanted to do one about Hecate, whom we are talking about today. So November got slated and I started working on the drafts. And I do a card pull each month for my Patreon members. And after those episodes were slated, literally after they were slated, I pulled the torch card. If you don't already know, the torch is a huge symbol for Hecate. So again, okay, little signs, little nudges to keep going. Now, confirmations, or I at least took all these little lineups as confirmations that, that I am on the right track and I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And that feels freaking amazing. It really fuels me to keep going. For housekeeping, Shopify took my store down. They closed me down. This is because of the gummies that I'm selling. And it's silly. They fall under the federal limit of 0.30, so they're not illegal. But yeah, they said no, and they shut me down. So if you are looking to place another order, I have been working on adding it directly to my website, which I don't know. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place, but here we are. By the time this airs on Wednesday, it should be back up and running if you are, again, looking to place an order. Now, if you're a Patreon member, you get the podcast episodes early, so it might not be done when you listen over the weekend, but it should be done by Wednesday the 13th. Okay, now I record my episodes in 3 sections. I, do the one that we are in right now, the beginning, as one clip. I do the main bulk of the topic as a second clip, and then the exit as a third clip. So I can add real quick, circling back to our signs and little breadcrumbs, that it was pretty cool that Annika and I are talking about Hecate, and towards the end, both of our dogs chimed in. The dogs are a big symbol with Hecate, and when I listened to do the edits and heard both of them, it just made me smile. Like, okay, there they are, contributing to the energy of Hecate. Again, how perfect. Now, I am a little under the weather. You can probably hear it in my voice. I don't think it was from my past weekend travels, but, airplanes and their recycled air almost always get us, at least a little bit. I do think it is because my house currently does not have heat, and our mornings are a bit chilly. Now, I love a colder house. I honestly, if I had full range on my air conditions, I would turn the AC on if it reached 72. And honestly, when my house is around 60, I do not feel the need for the heat to be on. That's just me. I like bundling up. I like wearing layers. I like the heavy blankets. But the house has been more like 45 when I wake up in the morning. And that has put a strain on my throat and my body enough just to make me feel it. And so I do feel just a tad bit under the weather. So I know my voice is off. It's a little rough, but I do have help on the way to see what is going on with the old heaters in this 1930s farmhouse. But I did buy reinforcements over the weekend and got little room heaters, so at least they can take the edge off in the mornings. All right, it is Hecate's month. If you are a Patreon member, it is her torch card that I drew that is honestly guiding the focus for our work, our journal prompts, and the spell work over there. If you're not a Patreon member, I really do encourage you to join me on that platform. I am adding more and more on Patreon all of the time. And real fast before we jump in, I do want to give a big shout out to everybody. Just say thank you for joining me on this journey, through all of this magic and mystery. If you have found inspiration or insight or, even just a moment of wonder here, please consider sharing this podcast with friends and fellow seekers. Really, hitting that like button and sharing it on your socials is like adding a little more magic into the world, helping others find this space and connection of growth. Every share, like, and follow helps create growth. So I really do want to say thank you for taking the time to do it. But more than anything, thank you for being a part of Witchy Work Wishes. All right, the Night of Hecate is this weekend. It is Saturday the 16th. So this episode is coming out just in time to help us be ready for it. Now, if you are looking to work with her, if you are looking to gain more knowledge of her, this episode is just for you. All right, welcome back, everybody. I have Annika with me today, and yay, Annika back!
Yay! Hi, thank you for having me back.
For sure. What have you been up to? I know you have something very special to add and tell the listeners about.
Yes, so I have been working on my own podcast. So I came out with my own podcast called BetweenVWorlds. It's only on Spotify right now. Yeah, I talk about kind of controversial stuff, but I kind of focus on the connections between witchcraft and religious trauma and stuff like that.
That's a big one. And I can say personally, I am loving your series so far.
Thank you.
And it gets, you get into it.
Yes, I do. Sometimes I think I get a little too into it.
No. I think people like that. It's going to be, hey, I have this question.
Mm-hmm.
Does somebody else feel this way? It's especially if there's any type of religious drama or trauma from anyone's past.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even, like how you started your podcast, it was more out of necessity.
Yes.
There was not something exactly what you were looking for, so you stepped up to the plate and you did it.
Yeah.
Kind of same thing with me. There's only so many podcasts that or episodes that people, I think, feel comfortable talking about those things. I don't really have a following in the witchcraft community. I don't really care to, honestly. I just wanted to get my voice out there and talk about that stuff because I know it's uncomfortable for some people. But I'm willing to be that kind of uncomfortable voice. I don't care if I get the haters, but it's like, I know there's other people out there who feel the same,
Absolutely.
or at least want to hear about it. Yeah.
So what are some of the topics you've covered so far?
Oh gosh. I definitely touched on
your most recent one was just about death, which I thought was amazing. You did a great job on that one. Thank you.
Yeah, that one was kind of hit me sideways. I was going to talk about deities and that connection, because I think a lot of us are really scared coming from religious trauma to work with deities.
Sure.
I know I definitely was. So that being said, kind of segue to today's episode. My personal relationship with Hecate, I recognize, is a lot different than most people or other witches. So I've talked about death. I've talked about the Malleus Maleficarum.
Yep.
Really just the devil, misconceptions, how it really affects your practice, even if you don't think it does. It does sometimes. Yeah. Things that'll make you question really your own magic and your own shadow.
Isn't that the best part about witchcraft? Like there's always a different area that we can understand better, learn more with, and potentially incorporate into our own practice, or say, hey, this isn't my avenue, this isn't my path, but we can always learn more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of Hecate,
Yes.
I am really happy you are joining me here today. I did potentially have somebody else slated for this one, but we could not meet up last weekend on the travel, so Annika is jumping in here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
to help me out. All right, Annika, who is Hecate?
Oh my gosh, who is Hecate?
What makes her such an important figure in just witchcraft or pagan practices in general?
I think everything. So this is definitely a loaded question for people who work with Hecate. There is so many resources out there saying, she's one thing, she's another thing, she's so scary, or she's more of a mother, she's more of a maiden. It's kind of all encompassing. Okay. I think it gets a little bit complicated, but when we look at her, she is absolutely connected to witchcraft.
Yes.
She kind of has this dominion over the restless dead, crossroads, keys. When we get into it, there's a bunch of epithets that she is connected to. Yes. But when people say Hecate, I think a lot of people just think of the goddess of witchcraft.
First and foremost, that's what's going to pop in. Whether you practice or don't practice, or you have a connection to her or not, that is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, she is also, not really, I wouldn't say she's the queen of witchcraft, but really it's part of her dominion, but she's also a chthonic goddess, so of the underworld. So I think that's where that kind of darker, scarier aspect comes in. By all means, that's not really my personal interpretation of her. She never came off scary to me, but she absolutely has a place when it comes to shadow work, underworld, death, transformation, stuff like that.
Okay. So I mentioned this over on Patreon, but this whole month of November has shaped up for me with, I think, some very specific signs that I need to be looking into this area more. So the fact that you're joining me today to help me understand who she is and what areas potentially we all can work with her on. I always look ahead on this podcast. So back in October, I was like, okay, what are some things I want to be talking about? And I know you were listening to the episodes with my mom where we were talking about genealogy and working, gearing us all up for the dump supper on October 31st. She was talking quite a few times about one specific key that is very important to her. Yeah. And it really did spark some interest in me to learn more about it. And I was like, if I need to know, maybe somebody else needs to know. So I kind of drafted the keys as, which it's going to be after this one, an episode on working with keys and key magic. And then I was like, well, gosh, the Night of Hecate, that's on the 16th. I would love to do that one. And just kind of drafted out November, right?
Yeah.
So then I did the card pull for the Patreon account. And I, it's like, what the? So, and drawing the torch card.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it. Like, it's just another little nudge of, Charlene, you're in the right direction. Yes. You're going the right way. Whether it's just for me personally, or maybe it's for somebody that's listening, like this is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Hecate especially is that goddess that absolutely comes forward and shows her face to you when
you think so.
When you are on not only on the right path, but when you're starting to kind of gather all these synchronicities. Yes. She is absolutely that kind of push. And so she recognizes...
She'll reinforce.
Yeah, she reinforces. Yeah. She loves it when people practice magic. That's really where she's coming to me, is like, she is going to push you to show up, and she's going to push you to keep going when it comes to magic and progressing. Okay. She doesn't like this kind of being stagnant energy. So when you get to a place in your magic where you're really comfortable, it's common, I think, to see Hecate kind of step away because she wants to see you growing. Yeah. And giving you those signs.
She's a doer.
Yeah, and she wants to see you do things with the signs she's giving you. So, yeah, she's definitely like, yeah, girl, get it.
Let's go, girl.
Yeah, I'm showing you some stuff. Now do something.
Now do it. Yeah, don't just sit and be idle.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
So, talking about Hecate, what do you think are some of the key symbols, animals, or even herbs that are associated with her?
Okay, well, first of all, we have to talk about the ravens.
Should we?
Yeah.
We have to, don't we?
We absolutely have to.
Okay, you guys. So this is going to be a little, we have to.
Yeah, well, animals, so she is connected to ravens.
She is.
Yeah.
So,
in some fashion.
Yes, you guys know I'm highly, highly connected to my crows and ravens. They've been with me for a long time, and I think they've come in and out of my life with different messages as different things have progressed in my own practice. So I have, I'm in a different spot. We're actually recording in the second location right now, and I left my flock, in a different city, and it was heartbreaking. It was horrible, but I was like, okay, maybe my time is up with them, and I'm supposed to be bonding with a new flock. There's a new group that is going to be bringing on a new direction. So of course, I'm not going to say it's all natural. I do buy peanuts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they just...
Which I have learned from you, because I definitely have always been the one to try and coax, same thing, obsessed with ravens, crows. I had a few that I kind of rehabilitated when they were babies growing up.
You did. Oh my gosh, you did.
I did. I had one, and then my recent one actually was about 3 years ago.
Yes.
I named him Jon Snow the Little Crow.
You did. I think we
talked about him.
I love that.
But, I always tried to feed them, like eggs, blueberries, stuff like that. But once I saw what your guys did with the peanuts, I was like, holy shit.
This has to happen.
I need to invest in peanuts.
It's a budget.
Oh, yes.
It's a line item budget, you guys, the amount of stuff. But I don't look at it like enabling. I look at like an offering. So for me, this is the way I communicate. I offer because I respect them. I want them as a part of my practice, as a part of my life. But it is a line item budget.
It really is an offering. I think I even talked about that in my last episode, is giving offerings to birds in general, especially crows, because they're so connected to the other world. It's building that bridge of magic. It's, it's not just, oh, come here, be my pet. It's really an offering, and you're putting yourself out there to connect with them. And the magic that they have.
We are a team. I'm going to give to you as much as you give to me. We are going to partner up. Yeah.
So we're in a space where ravens aren't really common.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So back to our crow and raven thing. So crows, absolutely. We are on the West Coast. We are in California, Central California, and we are coastal. So I know in California for sure, when I'm up in the mountains, you absolutely see the ravens.
Yeah.
They are bigger. They sound different. They're different.
Yes.
You know a difference if you've had the luxury of seeing both. You know when it's a raven.
Absolutely.
So where we are here, Crow City, tons of crows. I personally have not seen ravens here coastal. However, when the sound they make different sounds, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
So when there were a couple times, just being here at this new spot, I was like, damn, that really sounds like a raven. But of course, in my mind, I justified it. I was like, no, they're not here. That had to be a crow just mimicking a raven he heard one time or something, which they can mimic. Happened again, same thing. I just brushed it off, thinking there's no way. Yeah. So Annika, this morning, go ahead, texting
literally
me.
Coming in, it was 7 a.m., on the dot, and I get out of my car, and I heard that very distinct, right?
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I know exactly what that is, but where are you? Right? Yeah. So I look towards the big oak trees across the street, assuming I'm going to see the crows that we have over here, because they love to make those little funny noises sometimes.
They can, yeah.
And I didn't see any, and then all of a sudden I look up, and this huge crow, what looks like a huge crow.
It looks like a big fatty,
is soaring over me, and as soon as he gets dead center right on top of me, I look up and I see his wedged tail.
That's it.
And then a few meters back was his pair, his mate, I would assume, and they passed right by, and I just couldn't do anything. I was frozen just watching them holy shit, that was a raven. I know that was a raven. I ran inside and grabbed my phone. I was like, Charlene, I swear to Hecate, I just saw 2 ravens.
And then of course I backed it up and I was like, shut up.
Yes.
Annika, I think you did because I heard them. I know
I didn't know that about you hearing
You didn't?
them.
I didn't say anything because I brushed it off.
Yeah, you brushed it off.
So if our neighbor happens to be listening to this, or his girlfriend,
yes,
I actually reached out to Jameson this week because my boys are looking for tattoos. So I was like, we gotta get this. We gotta start getting this on the calendar with him. Mm-hmm. And so I started sending him information about Huggy Muggy. I want the Hunan and Moonan, Odin's ravens tattooed on my left arm.
Yeah.
And so it was so to have them physically here again where you can see them, and he's right over his shop and ours. Like, okay.
And I'm even getting a little piece of crow.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a crow's or raven's foot integrated somehow onto my tattoo for otherworldly travel and connected to those birds specifically.
So you've already got an appointment with him.
Yeah, so we're set on that one.
All right, shout out to Jameson. Thank you. Oh my God, I literally said, I'm like, dude, you're gonna have my whole family. Yeah. Because both the boys need stuff done. Like I need something done. Yeah. And we're just like, let's just start. I just need like a revolving credit line with him. Like,
it's good though.
Start funding it.
But yeah.
Okay.
So it was amazing.
So another sign here. You walked in, and we've got 2 ravens being like, girls.
Yes.
Keep going. Like you're on the right direction.
I feel like every time we talk about crows or ravens, or even Hecate in general, it's just immediate confirmation.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
So as soon as that, just like in my heart, I was like, yep, okay, she's here.
She's here.
Hecate's here. Yep.
She knows we're going to be talking about her, and she's bringing reinforcement of keep going, ladies, you're on the right line.
Yes.
Love
okay,
love
so
that.
what was the question?
Just any like key symbols. Of course, we just mentioned one of the animals, but animals, maybe even herbs.
Yeah.
Or like what are the associations with Hecate?
So definitely you're going to see a lot of dogs.
Yes. And black dogs, right?
And black dogs specifically.
Yeah. But dogs for sure. That's her.
Yes, that's kind of her thing. Very much the guardianship, the loyalty. More specifically, obviously the black she-dog, which actually I can't really recount exactly where it was written.
Okay.
But the dog was supposed to be, the Trojan queen Hecuba, who leapt into the sea after the fall of Troy and was turned into a dog. So that's where her main association with dogs really comes from.
Okay.
And the more unknown one is the polecat. And they look like weasels. So polecat, weasels, ferrets, all that. So so when it comes to my podcast, that's my symbol. I was going through. Charlene knows all the stories and the connections to it. But I'm deeply connected to. I grew up with a ferret. I love them. All that stuff.
Okay,
we saved one.
Can we talk about that? Did we talk about that before? I don't know if we did.
I don't think we did.
I can't remember. I just saw Big Shadow. The ravens are here. I literally just. So we've okay. All right, real quickly, if we did not say it before, as I was moving out of my other location, like a couple weeks before, the people behind me, it's a big like ranch property. Mm-hmm. So the people behind me had chickens that were pretty much loose. Like there was a place they could go in to nest, but a roost, but they were
like free range.
Free range, yeah. And they had a trap out, and they trapped a ferret, and I couldn't, like, it cried all night long, you guys, and I couldn't, like, by the time I woke up in the morning, I was absolutely in tears. It was way too much for me to listen to. I didn't agree with it. It was not on my property though, so I was struggling with, do I freaking hop the fence? Yeah. And basically, I left that morning. I checked on it. It was alive in the morning, still there. Looked like, like eye to eye looked at me. And it was literally right on the other side of the fence. So easy to see. So I basically had an appointment first thing, like at 7:30 in the morning. I had to be up in a different city. On the way back, I basically decided I was not going into the office. I was going to go back, and I didn't care who saw me. I was going to go rescue this ferret. Yeah. And I called Annika because she's my ride or die. Yes. I called her and I'm like, I need your help doing something. And basically this girl, this is why one of the reasons I love you so much, like, she was like, she didn't even ask. She's like, fuck yeah, what do we got to do? Like,
literally
what are we doing?
Getting my stuff and like she's already in the car, like, peace out, I'll be back.
Like, I
don't know when, but I will be back.
She didn't ask what I needed help with. But she could hear it, I think, in my voice. Like, my eyes were puffy because I've been crying all night. It was too much. So she was like, I'm there. So we went over there, used a really long stick. So it was a live trap, though.
Yeah, it was. Thankfully.
I know they were killing things afterwards, but actually what they did was they just let them die.
That's what breaks my heart. She was in the spot literally where the last one died.
Exactly.
Like, you could see the blood. You could see the decay. You could see it was heartbreaking. No.
So we used a long stick, like the end of a broomstick or something like that.
I think it was like a garden hose.
A garden hose, yeah. And we just clicked into the handle enough where we could lift the whole thing over the fence, and then we walked, I don't know, maybe 100 feet away and released her. She literally walked out of the trap
turned around and looked at us and just waited for a second, like, I see you. It was amazing.
Seriously, we were just like, it was a moment of silence, but it was like such a loud silence, you know.
It was
like there were so many words being said at the same time.
Yes.
And I don't know, it was
very, and I was like, that needed to happen.
Yeah.
And then it was shortly after that you started doing all the podcast stuff, and you were talking about the weasel. I'm like, Monica.
Yeah, there's multiple weasels that were popping up for me.
Yes.
I had a few meditations, and weasels are very connected to between worlds, because you know they were said to they are burrowing animals.
Yep.
So burrowing animals are associated with going up and down from the underworld to the upper world.
Okay.
So there's a big connection there. So everything just started to fall in line. All these synchronicities. That was super confirming.
We're done. This is done. And then you showed me
seeing a bunch of weasels everywhere, whether they were crossing the road or they were sadly roadkill, but either way, it just kept popping up.
So for everybody listening here in Southern California, we've got them wild.
Yes,
they're not like people have just let their pets go. They are actually wild little weasels. They are adorable. They have a cute little. Oh my god. They're called red. Is it like something with a red?
I think they're short-tailed weasels. So depending on where they are, their coats can differ.
Oh, okay.
But the actual species, I think, we have short-tailed weasels here.
It's cute. They've got like a little like red and brown like raccoon-looking face.
I have a picture actually of the one that we saved. I'll send it to you so you can put it on your picture.
Oh, we'll post it. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, you took a picture.
I do have a picture.
Oh my gosh.
So polecat.
Yeah, we digress again.
So that one is something that is a lot lesser known to Hecate, but it really is. She adopted this polecat because it was said to be this witch Gale. There's two stories.
Okay.
This witch named Gale, who was transformed into one because she was super sexually active and blah blah blah, and you know that wasn't allowed, so she was turned into a polecat. Another story was
and what are you saying, polecat?
Polecat. Polecat.
And what is that?
It's basically a weasel. It's like
it truly is. A polecat is.
I don't know if it's Eurasian or if it's European, but it's kind of like the native weasel to Greece and Europe. They're really big, I think.
More like cat size, like cat size.
More like cat sized, but yeah, they're basically
weasel. But a weasel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're called polecats. They live in the tundra and all that stuff.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. So this midwife to Alcmena, or Alcmena, was transformed by Eleuthenia. I don't know how to say her name.
I butcher the names all the time.
But so there was a whole story, and she tried to trick Zeus, and so someone got mad and turned her into a polecat. But Hecate basically took sympathy upon her and adopted her, and so Hecate owns a polecat, or owns a ferret, owns a weasel. It's really, really cute.
I love it.
That really touched me because I'm so attached to those animals as well.
Yes.
So I was like, and for her to be connected to Hecate, like of all things, of course.
Of course. For you, that's just another confirmation that you are in the right.
Yeah. So there's other animals like oxes, there's bulls, there's snakes, there's horses. Mm-hmm. So Hecate is also associated with having 3 heads, one of a dog, one of a serpent, and one of a horse.
Okay.
The horse appears to represent the crescent moon. The snake is an emblem of the rays of light of the full moon.
Okay.
And the dog, which is the half moon.
Yeah.
So there's those associations there.
I think I've seen images of that.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Mugwort, we love Muggy.
We like our Muggy.
The Muggy is very associated to Hecate and kind of the psychoactive things and other
letting
world.
You get to the other worlds and stuff. Is that her main herb, Mugwort?
I wouldn't say main herb. She's connected to roses. She really likes red roses, lavender, kind of like the nightshades. She's really connected to aconite. Oh. So it was actually said that Hecate originally discovered aconite.
That's cool.
In order to determine the dosage for poisoning enemies, they tested it on strangers. It was believed it was formed by the saliva that fell to the earth from the mouths of Cerberus as Hecate or Hercules dragged him into the daylight.
Okay, that's badass.
Yeah. So like the drool literally fell and created aconite. Yeah,
that's a great story. That's awesome.
That's
really cool.
All these stories, and then yew also. So the Greeks held yew to be really sacred to Hecate.
Did you say you grow that?
I don't grow.
You don't. Okay.
Because use a tree, and I haven't grown a tree yet. I want to.
Yeah, we've only done herbs. Okay, yeah, the
wormwood. I grow wormwood.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Wormwood is really connected to Hecate. A lot of my herbs are kind of
Hecate-ish.
Hecate-ish. But her attendants draped wreaths of yew around their necks of black bulls that they slaughtered in her name as offerings.
Okay.
So that's really connected. Really, there's so many. I'm sure you
can
find a reason to connect Hecate to any herb or botanical. And lots of animals too.
Yeah. But the main animals are probably the ones we see depicted with her the most. I definitely think of dog, for sure.
Absolutely, dogs.
That's the first thing
the
I
black
think of.
dogs. My first encounter ever with Hecate had to do with dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had another little confirmation with Hecate when Annika and I did, we can't call it a hike.
Yeah, we didn't go on a hike.
It was like a walk. We weren't hiking by any means, but we were strolling. We actually did a little something at a crossroad. Mm-hmm. We came back to the car, and then we went back to Annika's house to kind of swap out all the little gatherings that we had.
All the
all of our little foragings, and literally, we were talking about Hecate a bunch on the walk, and a loose all black German Shepherd came running up to us,
like literally the picture perfect Hecate dog, like pointy ears, skinny, very tall, all black. It was crazy.
And we just looked at each other. We're like, okay.
At first, we didn't put it together, and then I think I looked at you and I was like, oh my god,
wait a minute,
oh my god, it's Hecate.
What just happened? I mean, and loose. Like it wasn't like somebody let her go to. Like she came up to us.
Yeah, she came right up to us
for a reason.
Yeah, but also so. Hecate is really connected to liminal spaces. Mm-hmm. I don't think I mentioned, but she's actually a titaness. So she's not an Olympian. So during the war, she, I believe, is like one of the last titans that really was allowed to stay.
Yeah.
So her father is, what is the name? Perses. So he's the titan of destruction, and then Asteria is her mother. And she was the titan of prophetic dreams and astrology.
Oh, so of course they had her.
Of course they had her.
Of course they had her.
And I think, some evidence shows that she is an only child. There was no one else, and she doesn't have any offspring. Some stories show that she does have offspring, whether it be Demeter or Medea, I think, or Selene.
Oh, Selene could be an offspring. Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in more of the neo-paganism and contemporary paganism practices, Hecate really is seen as one of the three phases. So Selene is one phase of the moon, Hecate is another phase, and then
the Morgan maybe?
Demeter, I think.
You're thinking all the
third
Greek?
phase.
Yeah. Okay, so I know we just kind of talked about crossroads. What is a crossroad? And then what is the significance of her being like a goddess of the crossroads as far as how you think has shaped, the history with her?
Yeah.
What is a crossroad?
A crossroad is basically like a fork in the road, right? Yeah. It's any place where you come to and there's more than one way to go.
Right. You have to make a choice.
You have to make a choice.
Okay.
So it's right at that crossing. That really is her dominion because it's liminal. It's between spaces.
Again. And
she really does have this, I love it, but because I've always very much connected to liminal spaces. So like thresholds, in ancient Greece, they would have Hecate statues over temples, doorways of homes. What else?
Again, crossings. Anything that would be like maybe not a fork in the road, but like that cross.
Yeah, originally it was a three-way cross.
Three?
Because she is
triple,
three. Yeah, she has three heads, but one body. So she could look three ways. So she kind of had, she was guarding one way, always at once.
I got you. Yeah, she had all three covered.
She had all three covered.
That's awesome.
And also she's given power over earth, sea, and heaven. So she has three there.
So again, the three.
She's very much a triple goddess. I definitely wouldn't associate her with Mother, Maiden, and Crone.
You wouldn't?
No.
Okay, I've seen her associated with that a lot.
Yes, I think that is very... I don't say it's wrong because it's not. Hecate fits into a mother, she fits into a maiden, she fits into a crone, but I don't think that's where she belongs because she's that and everything else. So she's definitely more than just a mother, maiden, and crone.
Mm-hmm. All right, okay, so you just mentioned maybe not, she is a triple goddess, but maybe not so much the mother, maiden, crone that I've seen, depicted in other places, but more that this influences her connection to the cycles of nature. Is that what you're saying, or what? Or not really? Or the moon, or?
Well, I think the Mother, Maiden, and Crone, we look at it like the stages and the transformations of a woman's life.
Right, absolutely.
So while that is apparent to Hecate, she has these epithets of being a maiden. She has these epithets of more in ancient Greece. She wasn't this big scary crone. She wasn't super old. She wasn't super wise, but not like some old lady that we associate with crones. More often than not, she really is just always depicted, even with 3 heads and triple bodied, she is always mature. She's always just a woman. She's never aged out.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah, so I think, yes, we can associate her with Mother, Maiden, Crone, but she holds so much more than that. I think it would kind of be a disservice to Hecate to just kind of fit her into that.
All right, so what about some historical aspects of Hecate's worship? Like, how do you think her following has potentially evolved over time?
Oh gosh, I think a lot. In ancient times, for sure, I think Hecate was revered as like a very much of a mother, right? So she was worshipped a lot. She had devotees. There was a dipnon, so every single dark moon, when that really was the start of the next calendar.
Absolutely,
was on the dipnon, and so people would sacrifice or make offerings and have dinners in her name. And then the following day is called the Numenia, so that would really be the day to clean and cleanse and
starting fresh and
start fresh. So I think Hecate was really involved in people's everyday lives back then. Not to say it's not today, but I think there's a lot of more misconceptions with Hecate today. Hecate today. So all
right, so what
kind of going back to like the Mother, Maiden, Crone, I think that's what I wanted to mention was she is, so the Mother, Maiden, and Crone, so it's like this beautiful, all-encompassing, like womanly, plump figure that we see, and we're like, oh my god, this is divine feminine, and all this stuff. So for me, really, that's not what Hecate is.
That's not what she embodies.
That's not what Hecate embodies. And when you look at Hecate at a historical standpoint, she has these epithets of really just taking out the trash. And she is of filth, and she's of the in-between, the garbage. She roams the streets with restless dead, her hoard.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of kind of just grittiness, I think, there with Hecate, which I personally think is really fucking badass.
Yes, right.
Because she really is just like on the edges, the fringes of society, if you want to say. And I think a lot of people can connect with that, with Hecate. I certainly did.
Sure.
We feel not, oh my God, so beautiful all the time. I'm not the perfect image of what beauty standards say I am, and all that.
I don't fit in.
I don't fit in. But that's exactly what Hecate likes, and that's exactly who she is. There's epithets saying she's ugly, and she has the head of a bull, and she is a devourer of beasts. Yeah. She specifically has an epithet. What is it called? But it's basically the eater of filth. And so back then, every single dipnon, when you would have your dinner, the next morning on the Numenia, you would clean your house, and all the trash, the dirt, and the dust that these people would collect, they would burn it and give it to Hecate. And so she physically used this offering of, here, have my filth.
And she would take it.
And she would take it. She would take it on as her burden and really, help it, and it would decay. And then now she is helping the transformation cycle for something new and something more lively to come in. And even leftovers. Like, I still do that today, is like, I feel like when we go and make offerings, especially to gods and deities, it's like, has to be this big blown out thing.
Yes.
With Hecate, I love it, because it's like, I have leftover tri-tip in the fridge. Like, she's going to fucking love this. She's going to love this. Yeah. Or, even saving the first bite of my food for her, scoot it off to the side of the plate. Yes. Stuff like that. So I think that's where it really differs from this idea of wanting her to be this big bosomed woman who
Yes,
wants to give you a
voluptuous
hug,
and- yeah,
or
yeah.
on the opposite, this scary hag who is here to terrify you and scare you into doing witchcraft, when that's not really the case either.
So do you think in more modern times, do you think her following has evolved to embrace the more modern version of her? If there is one?
There definitely is a more modern version of her,
Okay.
which I think is good. I think
Okay.
a lot of people are recognizing her epithets. That's a huge part of working with Hecate, because
Okay.
she has this really funny way of becoming more complicated the more you work with her.
I would hope so on some level, only
Yeah.
because it's like in any practice that you're going to grow in, your understanding of what's going on is going to be so limited at 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And as you understand more, you're going to be able to take on more and understand different levels and depths. And so I would, that would be what I would hope if I started working with a deity, is like, okay, core basic. Like
Yeah.
I'm in, I want to be here.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden it gets another layer and another
Mm-hmm.
layer, and you're like, okay, I'm understanding more. I'm getting the whole version of you.
Yeah, and I think in modern times, while working with Hecate, she's absolutely one of the deities that is most accepting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna start with any deity, I definitely would recommend reaching out to Hecate, because there's so many ways to work
Sure.
with her. If you want to do something that you want to feel empowered in yourself, you can work with her queen epithet. If you want to have messages, you can work with that. If you want to shine light on something, you can work with her light bearer epithet.
Yeah.
So there's really a lot of things that we can do. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there.
That's
I
the
think
hard part.
there's
There's so many.
there's
Oh my
a
God.
lot of, even I see it on videos of, oh, Hecate is so scary, and Hecate, if she doesn't want to work with you, she's gonna just leave you in the dust, or she's gonna scare you. And maybe she does scare you. I don't know.
To each their own. You
To
don't know what
each their
somebody else is
own,
going to feel.
but if you
Yeah.
start working with this deity and she's showing you parts of your life that are not serving you, like, that's what she's there to do.
She's
And if
meant to be
that
there for that.
scares you,
Yeah.
then I mean, ultimately that means you're ready to face the truth and change it. So maybe you do need to get scared a little bit.
Yeah,
But
that's not always a bad thing.
yeah, it's not being terrified of her, physically. It should be being scared of what's happening to you in your life while you're, harboring these things that
Yes.
don't serve you anymore.
Yeah. It's hard to let go
It
sometimes.
is.
Even if you know you need to, it's still familiar, so
Yeah.
you cling
And
on
sometimes
to it.
Hecate will force your hand.
Uh-huh.
She will definitely rouse some chaos up and make things come to an end for you.
Like this, we're wrapping it up.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up.
We're wrapping it up.
Or even, push you onto another deity. She's really known for that too.
Oh,
She'll
really?
come to you, and she's kind of this this guiding light, really. I mean, she did that with
That's the torch.
with Persephone.
Okay, yeah.
With her torches, she was leading Demeter to go find Persephone before she was given up to Hades.
Well, you and I just had this conversation before we started recording that, and I'm a huge believer in it. I think it's part of the death, birth, transformation process too, but not everybody is supposed to be in our lives 24/7. I just don't think so, forever. If I believe that would translate to deities as well.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody is there, or familiars. I mentioned it in last week's podcast, talking about familiars. I do think they can come in to serve a purpose, and then it's time to move on. So how amazing if she actually uses that torch and guides you to who is supposed to help you to that next level,
Yeah.
or on the next journey, or whatever the next thing is that you are going to be going through in your practice.
Exactly. And she really comes to you on this in this point of your life where maybe you feel lost.
Sure.
And I always take it back to her dominion over the restless dead. Sometimes we feel like restless dead, right? Especially in witchcraft. We don't know where we're going. Sometimes we hit walls.
Things can get stagnant.
Things
a little.
get stagnant, and all of a sudden, she can pop up and even push you into, if you're meant to be in Norse paganism, if you're meant to be in more Celtic practices, if you're meant to be in more Egyptian practices, or, more of an elemental kind of thing. She's really seen as the anima mundi, which is the world's soul. She can be seen as really just the earth's soul in itself.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So she has a really big elemental aspect to her as well.
That is one of my most favorite things about witchcraft is the elements, working with the elements. It's
because it's so tangible, right? And I think that's what really gets people is like,
it is.
I can touch, I can feel,
I can smell, I can hear.
With air, fire, water, dirt, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just seems like such a core. And from there you can go to do whatever. But if you can start with elements, for me, that was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the night of November 16th. This is her night. And it's coming up. So it's perfect that we're doing this the week before. So if anybody wants to make plans for doing a special worship on the night of Hecate's night, November 16th, you guys can. You've got time. But could you help explain what the night of Hecate is and then why November 16th is particularly sacred to her?
So this one's going to be really funny. November 16th, this night of Hecate is really new.
Oh, it is?
So
this doesn't go back?
This does not go back. I don't
concept.
know where this November 16th really came from.
Okay.
It's great that it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful that we have this idea of
a night
this is her night.
Okay.
You know, it said that she would walk the earth and roam with her dogs and her horde on this specific night.
Sure.
I don't know why November 16th though. And there's no like historical context of it really when it comes back to it. It's the dark moon. Every single dark moon really was Hecate's night.
Sure. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So nothing.
So everything I would do on a dipnon, I would do on November 16th.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay. Does she happen to have a number?
She's associated with 3s, 6s,
and 9,
and 9. So triplicity.
So November used to be the 9th month on the old calendar system. So November, even though it's the 11th month on our new calendar system, but November means 9.
Oh, look, we're unraveling it right now.
Here we go. We're gonna tell you guys why. So if it could be interesting that if it's 3, 6, and 9 numerically, if we're talking about the 3 stages, 9 would be the crone stage, the dark night, right? The end of the cycle. Maybe that's.
And doesn't November 16th always fall on a dark moon?
There's no, it can't. It couldn't.
Or no,
because we have 28, we don't have the same amount. It would have to fluctuate. Okay, so with this year, I don't know if this is going to change some stuff. This is because my interaction with spirits always happens around a full moon, like almost historically. Like that's
funny because we're so opposite in that way.
You get it on the dark moon?
It's always the dark moon.
Isn't that funny? Okay, so you guys, so this year for 2024, the night of Hecate, November 16th, is falling on a Saturday, and it is 100% a full moon. So we could have some stuff going on here. We could have some things happening. All right. Okay. So what do you think?
So I would do.
Yeah, what would you do? More modern times.
Yeah.
So this could be a more modern practice.
I would absolutely follow the direction of the dipnon. So having her dinner. But really, if there's going to be anything you want to do with Hecate, take advantage of those epithets, you know? Yes. So if you want to leave an offering at the crossroads, obviously we don't sacrifice dogs anymore.
Nope. But no animal sacrifices anymore.
No animal sacrifices. But you could very much do something very symbolic. You know, you can create a black dog picture.
Oh, yes.
Or you can do something for dogs. You can go and...
I like that.
Do rituals with your own dogs or go volunteer.
God, the shelters, the Humane Society shelters, they always need people walking dogs. You get on their volunteer list and oh my gosh.
And when it comes to offerings, like Hecate, I think definitely recognizes acts of service.
She sees it.
Yeah.
She's like, I see you.
It doesn't always need to be food. While food is lovely, she definitely has a lot of favorites. Like
you and I did wine, didn't we?
We did. We did spiced wine.
We did spiced wine.
So I threw a bunch of cinnamon in some red wine, and obviously she loved it.
Yeah, because she gave us a black dog.
She gave us a dog. So you could do that. Eggs is very traditional. Raw eggs is traditional to give her honeyed fish.
Okay.
Fish, she really likes fish.
All right.
Garlic.
Yeah.
Lots of garlic.
I can see that. Okay.
I have a tincture that I made specifically for Hecate with rosemary, mugwort, wormwood, and I think that's all I put in there.
Those three? Yeah.
And those three. That I offered to her. I offer her wine pretty much on a regular basis.
That's a consistent, yeah.
But if you're going to leave something at a crossroads, obviously just make sure it's okay for animals.
Yeah, you're leaving it out. That means
everybody
has
leaving
access
it out.
to it.
Yeah, and actually traditionally it's funny because the act of leaving a food offering to Hecate at the crossroads is because she's very connected to kind of like these transient spirits and these people who didn't belong to society. So like even homeless people. And they would know that they could go to a crossroads and get something.
Oh, wow.
And be taken care of and have something to eat. So it's like you're kind of that olive branch.
Be careful,
you're an extension of Hecate taking care of these people.
I love that. All right, so what if somebody is potentially going to be doing something for and with her on Saturday the 16th? What do you think they need to be aware of as far as recognizing energy or some type of spiritual significance? What are some things to be mindful of ways she can come through when somebody's calling out to her or working with her?
I always go back to this kind of space of not one or the other, the whole liminal aspect of Hecate.
Yeah.
For me, when I work with Hecate, it's always like, if you've ever astral projected or, if you've meditated really intensely or if you've reached that certain brainwave state, it's almost like your feet aren't on the ground.
Yes.
Definitely be aware that things are going to feel weird.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's
the
her
element,
dominion.
That's where she works.
It's any place that there is an in-between. So it doesn't just have to be crossroads. You can do something at the shoreline of the beach. You can do something at train tracks. You can do something in your own threshold of your own home at your door. You can leave an offering there. You can...
anything that would be considered in between two different spaces.
In between two different spaces. Meditating even just under your own doorway. You're accessing a space of liminality. I think we talked about it. I love
that you said that. Sorry, I don't interrupt.
No,
I visualized that, and I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of sitting, I'm always in this. There's a spot that I'm sitting in, and I create my little circle around me and all that stuff. I like the doorway.
Yeah, I have a doorway charm that I made, so it kind of.
I really like that, Annika.
Booms the whole feel.
Amplifies that energy.
Amplifies the liminal energy. So I have certain crystals and keys and stuff like that I made a charm out of, and it's over my door.
And did you have it hanging down, or do you have it just over, like in the top of the door?
Just over the top of the door. Yeah. I think we talked about a little bit like having a lock and a key.
Yes.
I really like this idea of having your own tag lock and a padlock. Yes. So like putting a piece of hair or spit or something in a padlock, and then actually going to a physical crossroads and burying it and then keeping the key. So you can meditate with the key and you can kind of remotely access that specific crossroad at any time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you just gotta get a little creative.
Yeah.
But
again, this is all things to, if you're going to be working with her, maybe
even
not
childbirth. I mean, if you are someone who's pregnant right now, she's really, really connected to childbirth. She really was a goddess of midwifery.
Yeah.
So back in ancient Greek, like that's what she was really recognized as. And in her statues, even today, when we see her carrying the dagger, that dagger was specifically used to cut the umbilical cord of child.
Yeah.
And I think really that's the ultimate liminal space that any human can experience is coming from one world into another.
Yeah.
And then there's Hecate. She's like, oh, let me see your cords.
Here we go. Here we go. All right. What if somebody is a brand new and they're like, this is it. I feel a calling. I want to work with her. What would be a simple, easy beginner way to start working with her?
Start reaching out. Absolutely start participating in, I would say start with the dip-nons. You can. It doesn't necessarily have to be a feast, or what traditionally would have been the feast of Hecate each dark moon. But when I really wanted to start building that relationship with Hecate, now I don't consider myself a devotee or a worshiper. I don't think I'm the kind of witch that will ever worship a deity.
Yeah.
I'm very sovereign, and I very much like to recognize my own power and pull from that.
Same.
Especially with the religious stuff.
Yeah.
But particularly with Hecate, like, she reached out to me, and everyone's experience with Hecate is going to be completely different. Whether you do want to become a devotee or you simply just want to work with her, you still need to make some effort. You know, we don't just go up to people's doors and ask them for $500 and then, you know.
But if somebody's new to this, to her, they would know after doing a little bit, right? They're like, okay, this is not my deity.
Yes.
Or, oh my gosh, I do want to work with her.
Yes.
I do want, like, you're going to know. You're going to start getting that relationship going.
And it's her seeing and recognizing the commitment.
Yes.
And that's what Hecate really likes, is committing to not only her, but your own practice. So if you can really stick to a schedule of, say, every dark moon you're going to do something to do with Hecate, whether it be come up with sigils or reach out to her, do something with dogs, write poems, burn them in her name. Yeah. Even when you do normal spell work, you can bring Hecate into your spell work and ask her to see you practicing this witchcraft, whether or not you're working or you're asking her for her power or not.
Sure.
You know, I do that all the time. But yeah, just see me. Yeah. Or I'm doing this in your name. Okay. Something like that. Okay. Offerings is really, really simple. I have this statue outside that I put crow feathers in when I find them, and I put, you know, my dried herbs whenever I prune my plants. Yep. I put those in there, and then I have a little dish where I'll go out and put some leftovers from dinner or wine or something like that.
Okay, so that leads me right into, I was going to ask, what type of guidance would people typically ask for when working with her? What are some areas that they would typically seek, like, hey, I need your help with? Again, you're not going to do that out of the gate without forming a relationship. You don't ask anybody for help unless you form some type of relationship. But is it potentially with, you know, life and death, with people transitioning? Is that a good time, or some type of guidance to ask for?
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because that's where my experience came from with Hecate, is whether you have a relationship with her or not. If it is really her space, say you're dealing with a death, because she is also a psychopomp, so she's the soul guide, she will show up. She will. Okay. When I was going through a hard time with losing my dog, like, that's where she showed up for me, physically manifested, showed herself, and, you know, it really was this huge, profound experience. But I had no experience with her previously. I was not interested in deity. Yeah. But
so that was literally when I met you.
It was.
That was within like the first week of you starting to work
it
for
really
me.
Was.
So I remember it was like, you're like, I gotta do something, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? And Titus passed. He had cancer, and that was such a struggle.
It really was.
So that was the first time she came to you?
That was the first time she came to me, ever. And after that, I really wasn't interested in continuing a relationship with her. Sure. And then over the course of the months after that, there was more and more signs, because I really was lost. I was in this space of, I don't know what to do with myself. Yeah. And I was losing a grasp on my own witchcraft. I was losing a grasp on reality, you know. Yes. Everything was really coming to a close, starting a new job, moving to a new town. Yeah.
I don't know how you and I survived, because that also happens to be right when I was tanking.
I know.
How did you and I even...
I don't know, but it was intense.
It was bad. That was my absolute worst time in my life, and I've had some bad times. Yeah. That was when I tanked the most, right? At the same time period.
And that's really where Hecate shows up for a lot of people when you hit rock bottom. Because really, rock bottom, you're just transitioning to somewhere new, and that's usually where you meet the face of Hecate. She's there to say, you're not alone, and I'm here to guide you to where you need to be. And that's how she is with me, at least. You know, there's
Is that
times
where
in
that
my
torch
life.
comes in? Like here, I'm
That's
going to
exactly
show
where that
you
torch comes in.
where to go.
Yes.
I'm going to help you move and transition.
And that goes back to her with Persephone in the underworld.
Yep.
It's like, you know, we feel like we're in this personal underworld.
Yes.
And we don't know where to go. We're lost. And then we see this torch. And it's just she'll push these synchronicities and, you know, kind of guide you into where you need to be.
Right.
And then sometimes she'll back off. And that's what happened to me, is she pushed me, and then she backed off. And then it was kind of like this, you know, silence, and then showed up again.
That shows you the importance of a two-way street. This has to be a mutual relationship. There has to be, as relationships are, there has to be give and take on both sides.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can't just be receiving the entire time. You have to give too.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, even if I'm not constantly working with her, it's keeping that door open. So if you are someone who's new and wants to work with Hecate, just show her that, you know, when you go take your friend out for coffee, it's like, oh, I got it this time. Oh, okay, you can get it this time.
Right.
It's that same exact thing.
Absolutely.
With a deity, whether you look at it as an archetype or an actual entity, you have to make that effort.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I'm with you, 100%.
Just being consistent with it.
All right, this is good. I think we've covered some good ground on this one. I know you mentioned one of the misconceptions, potentially of that mother maiden crone. That's not really like the, you know, that image, but do you think there's any other big ones that are more with like social media? People are saying this stuff about, you're like no.
Yeah, I think the entire idea of her being this big scary deity is so wrong.
Okay.
I think it really is wrong, because I don't want to pull religion into it, but you know, but
I will.
but I will.
That's right.
Because, you know, to get these pagans off of worshiping deities, you know, not just Christians, but any Abrahamic faith, you know, if they're trying to conquer these people who already have established traditions and supposedly worship these false gods to them.
Yeah.
They had to turn the narrative.
They did.
And so they took advantage of Hecate, because they saw in ancient texts how versatile she was and how she really could fit into any box we put her into. And
that's so badass,
even
isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
and
so
even in modern times, like, again, to the Mother Maiden Crone, we try to push her into just this one little, okay, she's waning, full, and waxing. She's Mother Maiden Crone. She's this, and that. But she's everything. So let's not put her between those, you know, four walls.
Right.
And I think that's really what Christianization did, was they said, look at how scary she is. Look at these stories. And she goes to the underworld, and, you know, she eats filth and beasts, and, you know, she wants your dogs, and you have to sacrifice bulls, and all this stuff. And it really was a way to market and to monetize. Really today, now it's monetizing, but back then it was to turn the narrative and get people and to control people and say, really, your deities are not all good. That
how scary is that?
Yeah, look how scary they actually are. How about that? And then, you know, come worship
our
God instead.
Right.
So I think that still translates to today, is that she's so scary, she's an underworld goddess, or she's gonna make you look at your shadow, which is true.
Which is
true. But also
she will.
We know
that's not a bad thing. That's how we grow. There's no way to move forward
yes.
unless we deal with every aspect
yes,
of ourselves.
Exactly. And even having a shadow is misinterpreted today.
It's such a key word.
It's such a buzzword right now.
Such a buzzword.
But it's not bad. It's really, you know, dark is not bad.
Okay, so that you walked me right into my next question. I was going to say, if you can talk about the balance between her light and dark aspects, because I think she has both that are going to help practitioners. There is a dark side. It's not, you know, people aren't coming up with that out of nowhere, but I think she balances both, right? The light and the dark.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Hecate absolutely represents both light and dark.
Yeah.
And gray.
And gray. All
gray,
three.
because she's liminal.
She's liminal. That's right. That gray in between.
All gray.
Yes. So she's not this big, dark, intimidating figure.
Right. She's not.
But she does represent both the light and the dark. So there are going to be some things, some shit you're going to have to work through. If you form a relationship with Hecate, you're going to experience both sides.
Yes, you absolutely will,
Okay.
especially when it comes to her torch. Like,
Yeah.
she's going to take that torch to the darkest parts of your soul and make you look at it. And if you don't, she'll walk away from you.
Okay.
She will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love that. That's perfect. All right, so let's do some spells and rituals and offerings. Like, what do you think are going to be well suited in this area if we are working with Hecate's energy, especially if people are looking for specific spells, rituals, and offerings maybe for the night of the 16th?
I would say food is super easy.
It really
It's
is, right?
just so easy.
Okay.
I think it's the thing that a lot of people gravitate to first.
Okay.
A lot of people also wonder why food, because deities can't eat food.
Yeah. That's a great question.
It really comes to having the sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of your food, your sustenance,
Okay.
your nutrients that you could have taken. You're like, I don't need this. I'm sacrificing it for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
you had a lot of good offering suggestions.
and if you don't want to specifically make her food,
Mm-hmm.
again, leftovers, or even you could do a whole ritual in itself when you make her cakes, or you write a poem. You know,
Sure.
there's a lot of different things.
There's a lot of things. What type of spell work is
yeah.
suitable for her?
All spells. She
Girl,
loves
bring
the
it.
witchcraft.
Bring it. Yeah, what do you do?
She loves sorcery. She loves witchcraft,
Yeah.
magic.
Okay.
Gosh, spells. What could you do? I guess it depends. Like, do you want to do a spell specifically for Hecate, or are you like trying to integrate her into a spell?
I would say integrate her into a spell. Like if I ask for her to watch over me and to give my spell more power, what is there a specific area that I would be focused on? Like she's like, okay, this one, if you're talking about spirit, working with the spirits and getting guidance from like a spirit guide, maybe if she works in that realm.
Yeah, so first I would say figure out what you want to do, really what the purpose of your spell is first. So if you want to get a message from a spirit guide,
Yes.
then absolutely work with her messenger
I think,
epithet. Yeah. She's also really closely tied to Hermes in
okay.
ancient Greek.
Okay.
They actually were the two that were said to witness Persephone get stolen.
Really?
Yeah, the only two.
The only two.
So, again,
Like,
the
I
way
think of-
I work with
Yeah.
spells is I really try to pick apart every element of my spell and how I can connect it to Hecate. So, like, what
Okay.
herbs am I using? What time of day am I
Yep.
doing it at? Again, liminal. So, if you do it sunrise, you could do it sunset.
Yep. Dusk and dawn.
Dusk and dawn.
The between spaces.
Even like 3 a.m. if you want to get all crazy with it.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And
Or I
wake
was
up in
going to
the
say
middle of the night.
midnight, but
Midnight.
But any of her hours would be good too.
Any
the
of
3,
her
6, or
hours.
9.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, like I definitely think of like Freya with love. So I think each god and goddess would represent different energy.
Yeah.
So I try to think of that for
See, that's
spell
the
work.
great thing about Hecate. She's everything.
She really is. So
She
really,
really
it's
is everything.
the act of doing witchcraft
Yes.
is going to invite her.
And I think also that's why a lot of Wiccans today use Hecate as their divine feminine, because she really can be used for everything. Not to say, you can't use Freya for something.
Yeah.
Hecate does not discriminate. She does not care who's
Right.
at her party. She just
Yeah.
cares about how they act.
I love that. Okay, that's awesome.
So if you want Loki and Hecate there, go for it. If you want Lucifer and Hecate there, go for it.
She's like, I'm part of whatever group it is.
Yeah, she's not even part of the Olympians. She's like, I'm a Titan.
That's right. All right, so I think you mentioned some of Hecate's symbols earlier, but is that something that we could incorporate into our daily practice too? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
symbol work? Okay.
Cindy Brannon, she does a lot of stuff on Hecate. And she has a couple books, which I really recommend. It's called
Okay.
Keeping Her Keys. I think she has like a coven too that you can join. But she has actually come up with quite a few sigils that are not only for
Nice.
Hecate, but also her epithets.
Okay.
One of them specifically I really like to use even just on a candle. Really, when I work with her in the most simplest of ways, I have one of those really tall white candles.
Yes.
And I just have her sigil on it, and when I want to call her, evoke her in, just light it.
Imagery wise, I really do think the image of a candle is so similar to that a candle looks so much like a torch. So
yes.
I think if somebody is into candle work, which I love.
Me too. I love work.
I could have a million candles going in my house. It's like lighting your own little torch representing Hecate. And that would be
keys. So keys, torches, like if you really want to get into the symbolic imagery of Hecate, dogs.
Yep.
Is absolutely the first thing that comes to mind. Keys and torches and snakes.
Yep.
I have a little present that I got from I don't know who, but I know it's for Hecate.
Yeah,
I have a lizard skin that I found that I showed you.
Recently, you got that.
So even foraging for things like that would be great for her, just to use in your spell work, because it's connected to her. It doesn't necessarily have to be offered to her, but these are elements that are associated with her that you can use for your own doing however you want.
Yeah. I'm pulling all my notes. I'm gathering them right now for next week's episode about key magic.
I can't wait for that.
I'm so excited about it. Okay, let's do some quick practical advice before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
If a listener does not have a bunch of time, which this is probably pulling in a lot of people who are working professionals, right? Just by the title of the podcast. But if somebody doesn't have a lot of time, what are some quick, simple things that we could do just to say, hey, I'm here, come see me on the 16th. Or any night. It doesn't have to be the 16th. I'm focused on this episode is called The Night of Hecate. So
like quick things that you can do?
Quick. I'm talking super quick.
I would say light a candle with her symbol carved into it, painted on it, however you want.
Okay.
There's hymns and poems that you can come up with or look at that you can memorize that are pretty short.
I like that.
I would say just to simply evoke her power or whatever epithet you want to work with her in.
Literally curled up on these small. I'm gonna fit on this blanket. Yeah, he was getting it organized, and then he literally. Okay, so Annika's dog, for you guys listening, literally we dropped a blanket. She dropped a blanket on the ground, and it's the tiniest little blanket, but he made it work. Like he is on.
He's like, this is mine now.
This is my blankie. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what about?
So what would you want? Like coming from someone who
has not worked with her before,
right? Who has not worked with Hecate.
Yeah.
What's something ideal that I think what would you find ideal that's very simple to do with her?
So, I don't know, from everything you were just talking about, I would definitely say something about lighting a candle. I think for me to start off, I would be big on the relationship side of it. So I don't know why that really resonated with me, but sitting in a doorway or somewhere that's going to be that space. I think I would want to do it somewhere pretty close to my house to begin with. I don't know if I want to be out where somebody could come up to me if it was an actual crossroad. Yeah. Unless it was like up in the mountains where I would have the space, nobody would be, but.
That's why I like the idea of having that padlock and key.
Yeah, that one I like. I really do.
If you dig it deep enough, hopefully no one.
That would be and I thought about that when you said it. I was like, oh, what if somebody takes it? And then you've got that. Now you're pulling energy that they've stolen.
I don't want to be in someone's house.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. But I really like the act of lighting a candle to represent the torch, holding a key, holding a key and meditating and like kind of calling out to her saying, hey, I want you to come see me. Like I'm doing some stuff.
Yeah.
Come see me.
I would say also something that would be really useful for just I don't know, like if you have multiple keys, you can kind of assign certain energies to them, and then almost like how we hold crystals, right? If you want a certain energy one day, you take one crystal or you do another crystal.
Absolutely.
Do the same thing with keys, but you can consecrate them for certain things.
I like that.
That are associated with Hecate, but also within your own magic.
I like that, and
so
I do. I have
empowering,
a bunch of keys.
Or if you have a really hard meeting, that you are stressing and you don't really know how to gauge this person, you could totally do something like, okay, shine light on this situation for me. I'm calling in Hecate Phosphoros, and I'm connecting it. I'm consecrating this specific key. Wear it as a necklace. Put it in your pocket. Same thing like a crystal.
It really would have the same energy, and that is something. I know you just said discreet, but That's something, if you have a key as a necklace, charm or something like that, nobody's going to think twice about it.
Yeah.
You don't need to be openly overt about, anything. What about protection work? Is that something to call her in on? Like, is she a protector of, okay, so that could be like, if you need that extra energy of, I'm calling you in specifically for this type of protection.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I don't know the names of it, but I'm sure you can find it for her associations with protection. But I immediately gravitate towards her dogs. You do? Immediately, because that's really what they represent with Hecate, is that guardianship and the protector, and they're sitting outside of the gate or the doorway.
Guarding the gate,
They're guarding. So even just the imagery of dogs, and you don't have to own a dog to work with that energy. So absolutely, you can call upon Hecate's dogs specifically to help you protect you from a certain situation or person or energy.
I think you and I definitely are gravitating just in real life towards the protective energy of dogs. I've got a German Shepherd, and that's my dog breed.
He is very protective.
And he is very protective. And you've got a Husky. Like, we've got images that I think were just in real life of dogs that I think would be similar to what most people would associate with protection anyway. So that is a natural energy that I feel very comfortable working with. So that's a great suggestion. I like that. I do.
Hopefully you like dogs. If you don't, then I don't like you.
Exactly. Okay, what about using Hecate for some journal prompts or for just that, maybe not necessarily shadow work where you're, diving deep, but is there some general journal prompts you would think to kind of tap into Hecate's wisdom that we could give as suggestions to the listeners?
I'm going to be honest, I don't journal a lot.
Yeah, believe me, this is not, me creating the journal prompts just on Patreon, like, I have to put so much effort and thought into them.
That's good for you too, right?
It is. I know it is. It's helping me grow. So usually if I'm doing something for everybody else, it's because I need it. So I'm trying to be more mindful of, Charlene, what you've got to be doing these journal prompts too, and like what should we be writing and saying, and it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. So I don't think I'll be able to answer the journal prompt thing, but I will tie it into poetry. And I know you are really good at poetry. Yeah. When I was young, I really loved writing poetry. It's just how I got my thoughts out, my feelings out. Yep. I kind of get that from my late grandmother. She was a poet. Yes. And so when it comes to journaling, I think if you can just dedicate the page to her, then I don't know, who knows? She might just come to you and say, hey, write about this.
Literally, I was just going to say that could be very organic, because sometimes if you really do... hi! Hi, baby. Oh, that's awesome. That's perfect timing. I'm keeping that in, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm keeping it in.
With his fish, too, Hecate.
Seriously. Oh, my goodness.
Okay,
but I do think that lightens it up, which helps. I think if you're...
Do you just need to have a moment?
You need a moment, baby. What do you have? This is Hecate just saying, hey, lighten it up, ladies. Come on, it's not all dark. Oh my gosh. Okay, but for journals, don't you think, like, maybe it just should be organic? Maybe you don't have to have like a journal prompt. Right. And this is what I'm gonna do. Like, you start writing and she's gonna guide you what you need to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. She likes it when you look at those dark parts of yourself. And even if you don't want to write about the dark parts of yourself, you can write about what you are most grateful for today. Even the little surface level gratitude journal prompts like that.
Well, and that's perfect because you know what, November, at least in the United States, there's a big focus on being thankful and grateful, and certainly for our practices, it's more going to be tied to the harvest and things that have been happening leading up to November. But in general, the United States, there's a big push for being thankful.
Yes,
that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay. To help wrap this up, is there anything you would be like, okay, listeners, I really hope you walk away with this, or knowing this, or feeling this about Hecate?
Don't be scared of her.
Okay.
Don't be scared of her. Don't listen to those people on the internet who make these YouTube videos or Instagram posts that are kind of gatekeepy, because honestly that's kind of how I feel. It's like, oh my god, she's so scary, like don't work with her.
Yes.
Like that's so gatekeepy. Like shut up.
It is, right? It is.
Like she's for everyone.
Yeah.
And she is most certainly for the people who feel lost. And she will show up for you.
You've honestly said that throughout this whole podcast, so I appreciate
Sorry if
that.
I'm repeating myself.
No, I meant it in a good way, like legit, like the if you're practicing witchcraft, she's probably going to see you. One.
Oh yeah.
And she's not for a certain group, a certain segment of witches or somebody in the crowd.
She's certainly not closed practice.
She's
if
not a
anyone tries to tell you it's closed practice to work with Hecate, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
Okay. All right.
Sure, you can work with her when you're in a closed practice, but it's not a closed practice to be working with her.
Okay. All right. Do you have any advice if somebody's like, first time hearing about Hecate or learning a little bit more about her on this podcast? Would you suggest, okay, you guys, you want more? Go here. Or any type of guidance you can give the listeners of, this is a little taste, a little teaser. You want to dive deep into her? Where would you suggest? Oh, you mentioned the book.
I would mention Keeping Her Keys with Cindy Brand. I think she's really the most renowned person in the entire spiritual community when it comes to working with Hecate. Just because she is an actual doctor. She has her PhD in psychology and all that stuff. So what I like most about her is I very much take the similar approach in magic, where not everything is woo-woo.
Yeah, it isn't. It can't be,
and magic and science are just hand in hand, no matter what. I mean, I think people who deny that are just light workers. And I will talk shit on that. But it's important. And that's kind of what I do on my podcast, too, is, be critical of your magic and be critical of your spiritual thinking. Because that's ultimately what make us grow within. And
some of it is honestly trial and error.
Like it is.
You figure it out. You're like, okay, this didn't work, and this did work, or I tweaked something. Like some of it, you just got to start getting in.
Yeah. I
don't think spells or anything in our practice is gonna. Sometimes it's gonna work right away.
Right.
But
Yes.
And then you go back and you tweak and you make little notes. And you're like, okay, this is.
And I don't think I've ever heard, or at least experienced myself, of someone going to Hecate and then hearing crickets. Like, I feel like that's kind of a thing where people are like, oh, I really want to work with this deity. What can I do? And they start doing these offerings or these spells, and maybe the deity's not coming back towards them. I've never heard of that with Hecate. Hecate always shows you something.
She shows up.
She always does. So I don't think, she likes to be looked at as this, oh, you have to be special to work with me.
Right.
Or I have to pick you. Certainly she can favor people.
Sure.
As much as deity can favor someone.
Yeah.
But don't feel like she might just shut the doors on you, because her job literally is to open doors for you.
This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so definitely the book, if somebody wants to learn more. I think that's a great, actually I have not read that book, so that'll be.
It's definitely more of a devotee look at things, but it's absolute great knowledge. Anyone who wants to work with Hecate.
And what's it called again? Keep Her the Keys?
Keeping Her Keys. There's
Her
like
Keys.
3 books.
Okay.
And then also ancient texts. Like, make sure you get your knowledge from somewhere that is
not
legit.
Not a TikTok video.
Yeah, not a TikTok video. Look at the Chaldean oracles. Look at ancient Greek texts. I know the translations can be a little shoddy out there, but like, no one would have known that she's associated with polecats if you didn't look at the
I wouldn't have. I
ancient
love that you added that in.
text.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Or even childbirth and the dagger and things like that. So, and those are things that you're like, oh my God, that really, really resonates with me.
Yes.
Like, I had no idea that she was associated with this.
Yes.
That's just another way for me to work with her.
That's another layer. Amazing. Okay. Annika, before we wrap this up, I really want to give the listeners an opportunity to find your podcast. So will you give us all the details on that? What is the podcast called? You said it was on Spotify?
It's on Spotify only for now.
For now, okay.
It's called Between Two Worlds.
Okay.
That's it.
Between Two Worlds. Annika.
The picture has, it's kind of like the sigil thing with a weasel on it. And it's by me. My email, I have BetweenVWorlds@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect.
Because Between Two Worlds was already taken.
Man.
It's okay.
Between the letter V as in
the
Victor.
letter V as in Victor, worlds, all one word at gmail.com.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys, I'll do a special plug because I think I get to be a guest on Annika's podcast coming up soon. So I'll definitely tag the.
And I'm bi-weekly.
Yeah.
I do it bi-weekly, and then absolutely, you will be on next week's, which will be a Sunday. Comes out every other Sunday.
Every other Sunday. That's perfect.
Just an homage to Sunday service.
Oh. Love it. Of course you picked Sunday. Oh my gosh. Annika, this has been amazing. Do you think we covered it? Like, is there anything?
I think we did.
Nothing else you just want to throw in there? Like, I feel like this is a pretty good.
I feel like I kind of just want to put a little discretion.
Yeah, what?
I think my information obviously is not end all, be all.
For sure, yeah.
So go and do your own research. Obviously, everyone's going to have different experiences when it comes to deity work.
Yeah.
Whether you want to just work with her or actually be a worshiper, a devotee to one, it's a whole different ballgame to be one or the other. Or both.
Or both. I can say this is happening, I think, for me and in my personal practice for a reason. Having things drafted out, pulling that torch card, I feel like there's a calling, there's something. And then the Ravens, like, I mean,
seriously.
I've got to put some effort into it. Yeah. Again, I've got to meet her, I think, halfway. Mm-hmm. So she's throwing a lot of signs of like, let's go, girl, come on. Mm-hmm. I've got to do my part now and step up and then see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And she will accept you. Yeah. That's the thing. Hecate will always accept you, even if you don't want to worship her. I mean,
which is clearly that's not my MO.
And that's exactly what drew me to her too. Is like, I'm not going to worship any deity, no matter how cool I think they are.
Yes.
If I have to dedicate an hour of every single day, or 30 minutes of every single day,
it's not your practice.
It's not my practice. That's not who I am.
No,
as
my
a
dog
witch.
is barking.
I know. He's like, okay, ladies.
Can I be a part of this? Can I be a part of this podcast too?
But
we've got both of our dogs chiming in here.
But yeah, so she'll accept you for how you want to work with her.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. As long as you put in the effort. You can't half-ass it.
I think that's true with anything though, right? You've got to meet everybody halfway. You've got to do your part. It's no relationship's ever going to be one-sided.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have a relationship.
And even just doing, little acts of kindness and not asking for anything back. And those are the things that, like, okay, Hecate is like, okay, I see you. Thank you. Thank you for this clove of garlic.
That's right. It's funny. I really associate garlic with Odin so heavily.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of associations. I know when you've had Justin, the Pagan Padre, we've talked about Hecate and Odin because he's really seen as the All-Father.
Yes.
And she's seen as the All-Mother. Like they both encompass this
similar
everything as in one. So, and there's a lot of ties between.
There's a lot of crossover. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh my gosh, this has been like I just love talking to you about all this stuff.
Me too.
It was fun that we got to actually focus on Hecate today. Mm-hmm. Should we say real fast the pronunciation? Because I've heard it both ways. It sounds like it really doesn't matter. It certainly doesn't matter to her.
Yeah, it does not matter to her.
Hecate or Hecate, she doesn't care.
She doesn't care as long as you
figure it
are
out.
Doing something
just
for her. Just do something for her.
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing I think people like to be like, say it this way, say it that way. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I tried in the beginning. I was like, which way is it?
No, I did too. I think you and I actually did an episode on
we talked about it.
When was it, like a year ago? Year and a half?
Yeah.
And I think that was the first thing. I think I started off saying Hecate, and then you were saying Hecate, and then we were like, but does it matter?
Yeah. No. It does not.
Okay, yeah. Again, she just wants you to show up.
Yes. Okay. Exactly. That's what matters.
Right. Yeah. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to do another recording on something with
I know,
you.
and I'm excited. Everyone needs to come listen to Charlene on my podcast
next
week.
We'll do a little tag in and a shout out. I'll let everybody know I'm over there with a link even to it. This is gonna be perfect though. Thank you, Annika, for joining me today. All about Hecate and whether it is or isn't her night on the 16th. I mean, that sounds like it's just a more modern thing.
It is, but let's roll with it. Let's make it. It is her day.
She's got a night. Okay.
Let's not read between the lines and try to find the ancient meaning.
Right, because there might not be one.
Yeah, whoever first started it, thank you. Let's roll with it, because I mean, I follow it.
Right?
Yeah, I focus more on her on the 16th.
Okay. All right, so and this year it happens to be a full moon, so
I know, that's intense.
There's gonna be some power that can happen on Saturday.
There is.
There's some stuff. Yep. We got some workings to do. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should do our little crossroad walk again.
We should.
Right? We could. We could actually bring a shovel and bury something. We could let the listeners know how it goes. We'll see.
It could be your video pod. It could be your video.
Yes, I'll post on
thing
Patreon.
For the Patreon.
But that we could do something on Saturday.
We could.
And get out there. Maybe? Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, until next time, Annika, thank you.
Thank you.
Yay
thank you for listening.
For everybody staying with me, I do have a poem that I wrote specifically for working with Hecate. And, of course, the moon update, which we have given a glimpse on. She is big right now, but I'm going to switch over to that, and I will be right back.
Oh my goodness, that was a fun episode. Thank you again to Annika for helping us explore Hecate today. That was just perfect. And I will add a link to her new podcast. Again, that is called Between Two Worlds. But I'll add that and her email in the show notes. All right, let's start with the poem that I wrote about Hecate, and it goes. In the shadowed realms where silence keeps, the dark goddess stirs from ancient sleep. Hecate, queen of crossroads mist, with keys in hand and shadowed kissed. By moonless nights her whispers weave through tangled roots where secrets breathe. She stands between, fierce and wise, 1,000 lives held in her eyes. Keeper of souls, lost and found, in her embrace no fear is bound. Through realms unseen and fires cold, she guides the brave and holds our soul. With torch alight and serpents near, her call is heard by those who hear. In darkened depths where truth awaits, she guards the soul and guides my fate. I call you, Hecate, this November night, to hold the torch as my guiding light. May your dogs protect my walking path and shield me well from fate's cold wrath. Hecate, mother of mystery's thread, guide me through paths the others dread. Grant me sight in shadow's veil, where moonlight fades and secrets pale. All right, well, our beautiful moon is waxing right now, but in just a couple of days, we have our November full moon. And how freaking cool is that it happens on Saturday for Hecate's night? Now, full moon energy is felt before and after the actual night of the full moon, so if you are if you're getting little hints of it right now on Wednesday, nah, I get it. I hear you. I feel you. So the November full moon, often called the beaver moon, it brings energy of preparation and grounding as we need to settle deeper into the darker half of the year. This moon encourages our introspection, really urging us to reflect on what we've harvested and also to release anything that really no longer serves us before winter fully takes hold. It is a time for setting intentions that focus on resilience, on our self-care, and our inner warmth, helping us to, gather emotional and spiritual resources. Under this beautiful November full moon glow, we are invited to find peace with closure, aligning with the natural rhythms of, rest and renewal. Again, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you have found inspiration, insight, again, even that, little moment of wonder here, I really would love for you to share this podcast with your friends and fellow seekers. Hitting that like button and sharing it on your socials really is adding another level of opportunity for others to find space and connection with us to grow. Every like, every share, every follow helps me grow. So I really do thank you for being a part of it. Next week, I am continuing the theme of Hecate and talking about key magic. It's already shaping up to be an amazing episode, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Till then, though, I really do hope you have a great full moon energy, this weekend, and I'll talk with you next week. Thank you for joining me today at Witchy Work Wishes, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. For more information and additional content, please visit me online at witchyworkwishes.com. If you want to send me a personal note, please email me at info@witchyworkwishes.com. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Witchy Work Wishes.